Welcome back to Ask Diz. I'm Diz, and this is the show where I answer your most pressing running questions. Let's do this. So today's question comes from Ed, and Ed asks, do you have any tips to maintain good form while running easy? Ed, that's a great question, and definitely something that is a common issue that a lot of folks deal with, myself included, especially when it comes to running easy. So if you're into some type of heart rate training, if you've been listening to me long enough, harping on, ranting and raving about how good it is to slow down, run easy most of the time, how it's better for us, long-term health, long-term running health, all things considered. But then you try it and it just feels awkward. It feels ridiculous. The form starts to go. Things start to hurt that have never hurt before because your form starts to go. And you just go, the hell with it. Like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't know if that's your situation or not, Ed, but I know it's a common situation. And yes, I do have a couple of tips when it comes to maintaining good form while running easy. The most important one, and I'm not gonna bury the lead at all. We're gonna go with the big one. The by far, at least in my experience, by far the biggest, most important thing you can do when it comes to maintaining good form when you're trying to run easy is use the old noggin. Think about it. Focus on what you're doing. A lot of times when we're running easy, it's we kind of let our mind wander. Maybe we're running with friends, so we're lost in conversation. Maybe you're listening to a podcast, audiobook, music, whatever the case might be. You've got something going on in your ears, and you're kind of lost in what you're listening to. You're thinking about what you're hearing. You're living in the moment in the music, whatever the case might be. But you're not locked in. You're not focused on your body, and so your body's just kind of doing what it does. But when we're not pushing the effort, when we're trying to run easy, it's pretty easy for our bodies to kind of get a little bit lazy, for things to not do what they're normally doing when you're hammering it. Because there's no doubt about it. When you push hard, when you're running a hard workout, hard race, when you're really getting after it, your form is as close to whatever your perfect form is going to be that it'll ever be. Because you're hammering, you're pushing hard, you're engaged. You're probably a bit more focused on what you're doing, but you're certainly, your body's working hard, your muscles are firing, they're doing what they do. But when we slow down, when we run easy, when we take that pressure off of pushing hard, things just, you're not working as hard, your body's not going as hard, and things start to get lazy. So if you maintain some focus, if you think about what you're doing, think about keeping your chest up, think about keeping your shoulders back a little bit, leaning forward as you run, and not just from the hips, not hinging forward, but leaning forward on your toes so that you're falling forward, keeping your stride short, keeping your feet landing underneath you, which is what happens when you run hard. You're not landing heel striking with your foot out in front of you. It doesn't happen. It's basically biomechanically impossible when you're running at full speed or near full speed. But when you're just running nice and easy, yeah, you can definitely happen. So focus on where your foot's landing. Focus on how your foot is landing. Especially, and again, where it's landing in relation to the rest of your body. You want it to land underneath your body, not out in front. So just being aware of good form cues, being aware of trying to fire your glutes. Now, that's one of those things that's kind of hard to do. You're not just like think about firing your glutes and your glutes fire. But one way while you're running to get your glutes more engaged is to focus on really extending your leg back behind you. So keeping your foot on the ground as long as possible when it's striding through is a good way to get your glutes firing, because that's your glutes pull your leg back like that. That's pretty much what they do. So fire your glutes more, which is going to engage everything in your core, engage everything in your hips, which is going to help with your form. So really, it just comes down to being intentional, to thinking. And the good news is that you don't have to do that forever. When you're trying to make sure that running easy is something that's helpful for you, something that's beneficial for you, that you're maintaining good form and reinforcing those good habits, it takes a lot of attention at first, takes a lot of focus, takes a lot of thought. You might have to turn off the podcast. You might have to stop the music once in a while, or at least really focus on what you're doing, so you might miss some of what the podcast is talking about or the book is talking about. but you got to lock in. But once you do, and I don't know how long it's going to take. It's not like I'm here to tell you that it takes 21 days to set a bad habit or to set a good habit or 63 days or whatever. Eventually, you won't have to focus as much. And eventually, running easy will actually feel pretty normal. You know, when you first start, yeah, it feels awkward. It doesn't feel right. But if you get used to it, if you stick with it long enough, it starts to become second nature and the form continues to improve. It doesn't set you back. You don't start developing random injuries because your form's a little bit off from running easy. Your form changes a bit, or at least your gait changes when you're running easy versus when you're running hard. Your cadence is probably going to be lower. That's fine. You're not trying to go all out. You're not running race pace, which is where the magical 180 cadence number came from, is actual race pace, not easy run pace. So you might see some of those changes happen. You know, if you're looking at some of the real fancy data collectors out there as far as vertical oscillation and force production and time of foot contact and things like that, you might see some of those numbers that go, oh, wait a minute. That's all right. You're running easy versus running at a higher pace, at a race pace, at an effort that's too hard to be your regular everyday training pace. So the numbers are going to be a little bit different. Don't freak out about that. Focus on good form. Focus on landing with your feet underneath you. Focus on keeping upright through the chest and the core, not hinging forward, all right? Standing upright, looking eyes ahead, eyes on the prize. Just focus on the good form and it'll become second nature. And then you won't have to focus on it as much because it'll be what your body's used to and it'll be the default instead of this new thing that it's trying to figure out. So, and I hope somewhere in all of that, it makes a little bit of sense and helps you to keep working towards maintaining that good form, because it's just this habit that you have to instill, something to get your body used to. And once it's used to it, once it's accustomed to it, you'll be good to go. I can promise you that. So, Ed, thank you for the question. If you have other questions, further questions, if anybody else has any questions, let me know. AskDiz@DizRuns.com. That's the best way to get your question here on the show. We will answer it in a future episode. You can send an email. Obviously, you can record, preferably, you can record a voice memo and send that along as well. Just send that to the same email address, AskDiz@DizRuns.com. We'll play your voice. I'll answer your question. Everybody will win. And looking forward to answering another question coming up soon. But until then, keep working on running easy. It's a little awkward at first, but boy, it's a game changer long term. I promise you that. So until next time, y'all, be well. Take care. See ya.